Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Certainly Allah's deen is Islam. 3:19.
What is Islam?
Translation of Islam ki Hai. What did Allah say? The Quranic Perspective. Ghulam Ahmed Parwez 1964.
Tolu-e-Islam Trust.
Reg.
25b, Gulberg 2, Lahore. About the author.
Ghulam Ahmed Parwez. Ghulam Ahmed Parwez was born in Batala, Punjab, in British India on 9 July 1903 into a profoundly religious family.
His grandfather,
who was deeply religious and belonged to the Hanafi school of thought, was a renowned religious scholar who intended to make the author inherit his knowledge and religious understanding. As a consequence, his education and training was carried out under the direction of his grandfather.
While he studied the traditional religious teachings, he also had the desire and inkling to question its content using his intellect and reasoning.
This led to his inner conflict with the external religious environment, and he continued to question the prevalent religious concepts and practices. He noticed that whatever was being taught as part of the religion was being referred to some imam or religious scholar for authority. It was also noted in the religious literature that whatever the forefathers had followed should be obeyed without any question, and this was considered to be a requirement of Islam. For Parwez, this did not satisfy his desire to seek reason and logic in every claim and statement made within the religious literature. However, he could not express these doubts and reservations initially due to his respect for his grandfather, and the constraints of the religious environment which prevailed at the time in his town. Later, due to his employment, he moved to Lahore,
now part of Pakistan, and found a degree of freedom to question some of these religious concepts and beliefs.
After the death of his grandfather, he found complete freedom to pursue his line of inquiry and research into the prevalent Islamic beliefs, doctrines, ideologies and religious practices.
This led to his discovering that most of these have been acquired from others.
He tried to study the Quran using the traditional religious approach but was unable to find the answers to all his doubts, which required satisfaction from a logical point of view. He also studied the life of the last messenger and the establishment of the Islamic State in the 7th century in his quest to determine the cause which contributed to this greatest revolution. Based on the Quran, he especially paid attention to the statement from the last messenger, "The Quran is not a product of my thinking or that of any other human being," and that this is the message from Allah. He soon learned the procedure to understand the Quran. Through his contact with the famous philosopher and poet Allama Iqbal, who had a deep interest in the Quran, Parwez concluded that to understand the Quran one has to understand three fundamentally important points. 1. The Quran calls itself light, nur, and a light does not need any external source or aid to make itself visible. It makes itself evident and also exposes the reality of those things which are within its domain. 2.
The Quran is revealed in the Arabic language and, to understand it correctly, one needs to understand the Arabic context which was prevalent at the time of its revelation.
3. The Quran has guided us by saying that through Tasrif al-Ayat,
through cross-reference within the verses of the Quran, it makes its guidance clear.
G.
C.
6:106. In order to meet the second requirement regarding the precise meaning of the Arabic words in the Quran, he researched and compiled a Lagat al-Quran, now translated into English, which is a dictionary of all the words and terms used in the Quran and which includes the meanings which were prevalent among the Arabs at the time of the Quranic revelation. For the third requirement of Tasrif al-Ayat, the Quran is different from books written by human beings, where the latter are usually divided based on various subjects. The Quran is based on mentioning a reality in one verse or verses and then its further explanation is noted in another place or places. For example, in Surah Al-An'am the Quran states,
And thus do we explain the signs by various
verses, so that they acknowledge, you have explained them, and we make the Quran clear for a people who know.
106. In order to meet this requirement, Parwez felt the need to compile all the verses under one subject as referred in various verses of the Quran, and he compiled a book in Urdu titled Tabweeb ul-Quran
i.e. classification of the Quran. This made it easy to refer to various subjects and look at all the verses mentioned in the Quran relating to a subject, along with writing and producing literature on the Quran. Parwez also held a regular weekly meeting in Lahore to deliver a Dars lecture explaining the Quran in Urdu, and these are also available as audio and video recordings. He dedicated most of his life to researching the Quran and its significance in relation to presenting an alternative solution to human problems, and answering questions relating to human creation, its purpose, and the question of death and the next life.
He also participated in the struggle for independence during the period 1938 to 1947 and the creation of Pakistan,
which was based on the ideology of the Quran, with a view to establishing an Islamic state for the Muslims of the subcontinent. He worked very closely with the founder of Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Quaid-e-Azam, or Great Leader,
and had regular discussions with him on various aspects of the message of the Quran.
In order to support the movement for a separate state for the Muslims of India and to counter the arguments put forward by some of the religious lobby who opposed the creation of Pakistan, he published a monthly journal called Tolu-e-Islam, Dawn of Islam, commencing in 1938.
Parwez joined the Indian Civil Service in the Home Department in 1927.
And after the creation of Pakistan he migrated to Karachi, and continued to serve in the same department till 1955, when he took early retirement and devoted the rest of his life fully to his work on the Quran. He moved to Lahore from Karachi and settled there. He left this life on the 24th of February 1985 in Lahore, and his body was laid to rest in Lahore. Foreword.
It was a while ago that I considered a written structure in order to present Islam in its true colors.
And it was this, to first of all explain in a completely unbiased way what human intellect alone has achieved to date in finding solutions for the important problems of life, without the help of divine revelation,
and whether it has been successful in its aim. If it has found satisfactory solutions to these problems of life, then the need for another source of knowledge does not even arise
beyond human intellect. But if it has not been successful in its aim, then we need to look at the source of knowledge which is beyond the reach of human intellect, i.e., divine revelation, and which is now preserved in its true form within the Quran, and what solutions it presents to these problems. Accordingly, under this scheme, the first book in this connection, titled What Did Man Think?, was published in 1955, in which, starting from the time of the Greek philosophers to the modern times, research was presented from philosophers, historians and scientists, and it was shown how despite all this exertion and struggle they accept the fact that it is not possible for the human intellect alone to find the solutions to the important problems of life. After this, in this connection, there was to be another book, the title of which was proposed as What Did Allah Say?
During this period, many colleagues suggested that there was a requirement for a self-sufficient book in which it was detailed what Islam is, because nothing is available in this exact form.
And, leaving aside non-Muslims, even Muslims themselves do not have a clear concept of deen in front of them.
I too was strongly aware of the need for this kind of a book, and I thought that once I am free from the writing of the book, What Did Allah Say?, then I will turn my attention to this issue.
But when I started drafting the book, What Did Allah Say?, I felt that if a small change was made to it, then it can become that very same book which has been referred to earlier. Hence, I started to re-examine the arrangement of this book and started to write it in such a way that on the one hand it becomes the second part of What Did Man Think? And on the other hand it becomes a self-contained book which can be presented so that it will be known as What is Islam? Therefore, this book is now presented to you.
In this book at some places it was felt necessary to quote Western thinkers who are referred to in the book, What Did Man Think? At these places, rather than being directed to refer to those parts of the book, these have been fully quoted so that the subject under discussion is complete. It is our claim,
and this claim is based on our Iman, that Islam is bestowed from Allah as the final and complete deen which deals with all the difficulties of mankind, i.e., it holds within it the solution to all the fundamental problems of life.
But when we wish to determine what Islam is, then in response, different voices emerge from different quarters.
And when these voices are combined, their outcome is nothing more than the issues related to namaz, prayers, rosa, fasting, hajj, pilgrimage, zakat, etc. Now it is obvious that the Islam whose concept relates only to this cannot present solutions to the problems of even Muslims themselves. Never mind the problems of the whole of mankind. Islam is a system of life whose foundations are based on a few solid and immutable concepts. As long as these fundamental concepts do not appear in clear, unambiguous and precisely defined forms, it cannot be understood what that system of life is which is proclaimed as Islam, and which contains the solution for the important problems of life. In this book, I have presented these concepts. Here this question may arise, as to what is the authority for these concepts which are presented as the foundation of Islam. The answer to this question is easy. The Quran is the code of the laws of Islam. Deen has been completed and secured within it. Therefore, Islamic concepts are those whose authentic validity is available from the Quran. I have drawn these concepts from the Quran according to my own vision and understanding, and presented these with the Quranic authority. It is possible that my interpretation may have erred in understanding some meaning of the Quran. Because in any case this is a human effort in which there is a possibility of error and mistake. But it can never happen that I would deliberately present a non-Quranic concept as Quranic. In my opinion, doing this is shirk, and there is no greater crime in the court of Allah than this. As I have been continuously saying for a while, Islam is deen and not madhab, religion. And I have explained the fundamental difference between deen and religion in detail on various occasions. At this juncture it will be sufficient to understand this much, that the messengers of Allah used to present deen in its original form through wahi, revelation. Afterwards, their followers used to alter this deen, usually deliberately, in order to serve their vested interests, but sometimes unwittingly as well. This altered form of deen is called religion. Madhab. Like the deen presented by the previous messengers of Allah. The same thing also happened to Islam, and its followers too gradually brought it down from the higher status of deen to the level of religion. After becoming a religion, Islam, a lively, fully awake and dynamic system of life, instead of leading the caravan of mankind to its intended destination, was reduced only to a collection of some lifeless beliefs and soul-less rituals. The consequence of this was not just that the worshipping nation of this religion became deprived of all the prosperities of life, but that the caravan of humanity was not itself able to tread on the right path. When the beacon of deen was not even in front of it, how could it tread on the right path? This is the reason that today all nations of the world are caught in the hell of fear and discord from which they do not see any way out. Although the followers of Islam have, deliberately or unwittingly, turned it into a religion, there is a fundamental difference between it and other worldly religions, and this is that difference which can serve as a hope for the caravan of mankind to find the right path. Indeed it is a surety, and that is that the code of laws of the Deen of Islam i.e.,
the Quran, is available to man in its original and unaltered form. Therefore, whenever they wish, they can turn this religion back into Deen.
My humble effort has always been this,
in which I have been continuously immersed for the last 25 to 30 years.
And
that is to distill non-Quranic elements from divine Deen in order that I can present it again in its true and pristine form to the world,
so that the Muslim Ummah can itself find its lost status once again and the caravan of mankind can march on the right path of life. This book is part of my ongoing effort in this connection. I understand that if this book is given in the hands of our young educated class,
religion influenced, then they can be attracted to Islam with the full satisfaction of their hearts and minds based on their own observed and acquired evidence.
Similarly, if this is passed on to non-Muslims, then their misconceptions about Islam can be removed. As far as our educated youth are concerned, on the one hand we teach them the theory of relativity by Einstein, the philosophy of history by Hegel, the knowledge of the self by Freud, and the philosophy by Whitehead, while on the other hand in Islamiyat we provide education in the same tales of the past based on superstitions, aimless rituals and soulless beliefs, and assume that we have convinced them about the truth of Deen, and that they will become true Muslims. As a consequence of this, far from becoming true Muslims, instead the doubts and skepticism about Islam are definitely reinforced. The need is for Islam to be presented in the light of the latest modern knowledge and to inform them that having reached that place at which human intellect comes to a dead end,
how Deen takes them forward from this point onwards.
As far as non-Muslims are concerned,
their knowledge about Islam is taken from those ancient books of ours in which are found all types of invented narrations and tales, and nonsensical accounts far removed from knowledge and intellect.
Since we have given these books the status of piety and sanctification, they have therefore become an authority on Islam. The Islam gleaned from these books will be such from which every truth seeker will run afar.
Present Islam as revealed through the Quran to these people, and then see how they become convinced to bow their heads before this.
I have experienced this myself. I am hopeful that this effort of mine will be successful in fulfilling this purpose. Finally, I would like to reiterate these words which I have written at the end of What Did Man Think, if through these efforts of mine even a few such individuals are born in whose hearts the conviction of the guidance of the Quran emerges based on their own perceptive evidence. I will then acknowledge that I have received the reward of my unremitting visionary exertions and my heartfelt endeavors. G. A.
Parwez.
25B Gulberg 2, Lahore, Pakistan, September 1964.
Editor's note.
This book is an English translation of the Urdu book titled Islam Kya Hai? What is Islam? Written by G. A.
Parwez in 1964.
This book covers the salient aspects of Islam as revealed in the Quran.
Parwez later wrote a book in English titled Islam,
A Challenge to Religion, which is a more detailed version published in 1969 and which is available free at islamicdawn.com. This translation covers all of the aspects which are discussed in the original Urdu version. However, the Arabic text of the verses from the Quran has not been included and readers are directed to the Quran for these details. The English translations used for the Arabic verses of the Quran are mainly taken from the translation of the Quran by Abdullah Yusuf Ali, with some amendments made using the exposition of the Quran, published by Tolu-e-Islam, to elaborate meanings where required. The verses of the Quran are given in the format
2.
177,
in which 2 refers to the chapter, surah,
of the Quran and 177 is the number of the verse itself. As is the case with all translations, it is difficult to translate everything literally, as this can affect the flow and meaning of the original text.
In order to clarify some of the words and terms, additional explanations have been provided as footnotes at the bottom of the page, and
ed. is written against these additions, indicating this as being from the editor. Footnotes without ed.
written against them are to be considered as being from the author himself. This book is divided into 17 chapters which cover various topics including
Deen as a system, the human self, intellect and deen, the law of requital, the life in the hereafter, the Islamic system of sustenance, deen as a political system, the rise and fall of nations, the permanent values and woman.
The term Allah has been used throughout the book when referring to the Quran, and the term God is only used when the text does not refer to any specific parts of the Quran.
Allah, as used in the Quran, is a very comprehensive designation which encompasses all of his divine attributes and refers to his complete sovereignty in the universe. As noted by the author, the Quran is not a book of religion. Madhab. It is a revelation from Allah for mankind for all times and provides details of a system called Deen.
Deen is not a religion but a system, just like capitalism or communism, and covers all aspects of human life.
The following points about the Quran should be noted. Historically, the Quran was revealed over a period of 23 years as a guidance to all of mankind. The last messenger of Allah, Muhammad, peace be upon him, disseminated this message among the people, which resulted in the establishment of an Islamic state based on Quranic values in the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century AD. The Quran states that the purpose of the creation of the universe and the earth is to hold every individual accountable for his or her deeds so that no one is dealt with unjustly. And it explains how this process of accountability functions and its impact on our life, which includes the life of the hereafter.
It declares,
Allah created the heavens and the earth as truth, so that every self finds the recompense of what it has earned and none is dealt with unjustly. 45:22. Everything in the universe is provided with inbuilt guidance from Allah except man, who by virtue of possessing free will, has no inner guidance. However, man is given guidance as an external criterion in the light of which he can choose to exercise this free will. This guidance is provided in the form of revelation from Allah through his messengers who were chosen by him from among men.
These messengers were the recipients of the revelation, which they then passed on to their fellow human beings. The Quran is the complete and final revelation from Allah, which was revealed through the last messenger Muhammad and has been preserved and protected since then in its original form. Since then, this process of revelation has stopped forever as far as this world is concerned.
The Quran describes the state of the world or
of a society when the guidance given in the Quran is not followed, and also the result when it does follow this. It addresses itself to an individual first, and by appealing to the intellect and reasoning, invites the individual to consider the guidance given within it.
It then addresses those who accept its guidance, the Mu'mineen, and directs them to establish a collective system for the good of the whole of mankind. The Quran calls this system Deen.
The Quran contains non-human thinking, and this is the reason no human being can produce anything like it.
However, the values given and illustrated in the Quran can be understood through the use of human intellect and reasoning, and Deen as a system can be established in the light of these values. The concept of Allah given in the Quran is unique and is not available anywhere else.
Human beings possess a self which needs a model for its development, and the concept of Allah based on the divine attributes serves as a model for the human self to acquire these attributes within the constraints of being human.
The Quran is a complete book and does not require any other source for its interpretation and explanation. It is non-emotive and provides reality as it is, then it leaves it to us to understand it in the light of the developments and circumstances of the time in which we live.
I wish to give thanks to and acknowledge the
support provided by Hussain Kaisrani of Tolu-e-Islam Trust, Lahore, Asif Jalil, Karachi, and Sheraz Akhtar, Norway.
I am profoundly grateful to my wife for her help and encouragement in the translation work and revision. Finally, this work is a translation and as such any ambiguity in the text in the English version which is not present in the Urdu version is my responsibility as a translator and editor and not of the original author. If readers have any questions or comments after reading this book, they are welcome to contact the Tolu-e-Islam Trust. Ajaz Rasool, Glasgow, UK, August 2017.